What's up, everybody? Welcome aboard to Bubba's Bottom Line, and it's always great to be here. And obviously, there's always something to talk about. And of course, as we look back at the action last week, what did we see? We saw a market that was almost identical as the week before. Interestingly enough, both weeks on Tuesday had a major sell-off that lasted about 20 minutes that immediately rallied back, and the markets went on to make new highs. All right, now, what are some of the signs that we're hearing from this market? And, we get these pundits who talk about markets, and the truth is they don't know about markets. They know about ratings. They know about how to get people attracted. And, of course, people are much more apt to tune into a network when they have an up market. So when we're cheerleading the markets higher, ratings are going to be higher because everybody wants to check out their 401ks and IRAs every day when the market's going up. When the market's going down, everybody wants to hide. But, I think one of the big things here is the way that we mislead the truth. Now, we're in the middle of earnings season, or at the beginning towards the middle. And of course, earnings have come out and they've been fairly good based on the numbers, which is fine. However, when you look at the overall picture, when you look at the real decision process you should be making when you're looking at these companies and you're looking at the economy, what do we really have? You've got companies that are making money on earnings, but they're making money on contracting their companies, not expanding their companies. We don't have any capital expenditures going on. We don't have any research going on right now with these companies. You have got a free money, a cheap money society that has gotten used to living on this low interest rate policy, and where the big guys can take advantage of the cheap money, either buy back their own stock, do all kinds of things to increase margins, which is great for them and it's great for their shareholders, but it really does nothing to help the economy. So you got these big numbers coming out and everybody's bragging, oh my God, we got 11% earnings growth. Yeah, we have 11% earnings growth, and how much contraction in the workforce? How much less are our wages today than they were? So you can look at it in either side. In either case, it's not good. Because at the end of the day, right, the United States, we are dependent on growth. If we don't grow, if we can't find growth, then what are we going to end up having? We're going to end up having a one big socialist society where everybody's doing the same thing. It's just not, the environment we have today is not healthy because of the lack of growth, because of the lack of bringing things back, because of a number of other things. But the biggest thing is that the people that continue to report how good things are not giving us accurate data based on the real facts. The real facts is we are severely lacking in any growth in this country. The fact is we are severely lacking in any hiring. Now, yes, we're at full employment, but we're making less money. All right? So you get more people that are working, making less money as a group. And it doesn't matter the individuals. Again, this goes back down to what we talked the last couple of weeks about, is the tax receipts. All right? So that's a problem. Now, again, we can ignore it. We can continue to throw it on the side. We can do anything we want with it. But at the end of the day, this is a problem. Right? But yet, the stock markets are at record highs. And again, I'm not complaining about the markets at record highs. I mean, quite frankly, my 401k and my IRA are doing very well, and I haven't sold anything. I didn't get killed. So I'm not complaining. I don't think the markets belong up in these levels. I think you're starting to see a couple of signs that are even more telling of where we're probably headed, and that is now you've got, there's been some headlines over the weekend, the bears are throwing in the towel, all right? It means that they can't take it anymore. They don't want to be short anymore. Well, that's usually a pretty good sign that the end of the bull market is coming when people start to turn it over. I'm afraid to say this to you because, a lot of you are, at that age and, you're investing and you've got all your money tied up in the market. And then, of course, a lot of the money coming in right now that has been floating this market has been the last of the retail investors, the last of the people that are finally getting in after 9 years of sitting out because of the damage they did. They finally feel that it's safe. Right now, as safe as I feel like if I was Dustin Hoffman and sitting in the dental chair in the Marathon Man with Sir Laurence Olivier with the rusty drill, you know, getting ready. Is it safe? Is it safe? I would say this to anybody who is investing new money into this market now, especially if you cannot afford the risk if something goes wrong. You're making a big mistake. Now, again, I'm not saying we're going down tomorrow. I don't want anybody to think that I'm predicting doom and gloom or the end of the world. I'm just saying that probability-wise, percentage-wise, can we go up still? Sure. But when you look at the bigger picture, 5 stocks are responsible for 50% of the gains this year in the market. There's a lot of stocks that are floating down the road to crap. You know, General Electric, just another one that just shows down in the 25s. I mean, you know, again, those things are indicative of a problem. Again, it's not me. I don't want there to be problems. But unfortunately, because of where we are and because of what we do and because of the government that we have running us, we have plenty of problems. And that's one of the problems I see. And we're going to talk about that when we come back from the break. This is Todd Bubba Horwitz, Bubba's Bottom Line. And we like to call it Real Markets, Real People. We're going to step out here for a break, and we will be right back with more after the break. Bubba's Bottom Line. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line. And of course, we started before we finished off the last segment. We were kind of talking about the government, you know, one of our favorite topics. And of course, I've said this I've said it for months, but now I'm saying it again for I don't know, maybe the billionth time, that there will be no deals done in Wall Street, okay? In Washington. There will be no deals done. You've got too many people that are too much for themselves. The politicians that we have today are not what the original framers of the Constitution had in mind. This is not meant to be a full-time professional job for your life. This is meant to be you come and you serve your time, you help the country, you move on. But in the meantime, does anybody really think that you're going to get health care passed when the people that have to vote for it, they have their own health care? They're not on Obamacare. If they were on Obamacare, we would not have a problem getting the health care plan passed. It would be done already. But they aren't. They have their own. So what do they care? They have their own pension system. They're not on Social Security. So again, why would they care? This is the problem that you have, okay, is because they get to live on a separate level. Again, another separation of the classes, all right? Another separation of the haves and the have-nots. Because why aren't they on Obamacare? Why aren't they using Social Security? Because if they were, you could bet your ass they would have these things resolved. And there wouldn't be so much separation between the idiots on the left and the idiots on the right. Again, I'm not picking a side here. Yes, I am a Donald Trump supporter, and I give the man all the credit in the world. He's doing the best job that he can based on the circumstances around him, and that goes from the left and the right. The backstabbers underneath them are doing a hell of a job at stopping everything. But really, who are they really hurting? They're hurting you and me. That's where it comes down to. All right, it's not hurting them. They're just, you know, figuring out how they can scam a few more bucks out of you, right? Through, you know, all of their special interest groups and everything else that they do. This is the BS that goes on. Again, why are the politicians not on the same plan that we are? That's all. It's a very simple question. It shouldn't be. Now, again, who's responsible for that? Well, next time you look in the mirror, that would be one of the people that's responsible for what's going on in Washington. You know, we as voters, we as people did not do a good job at vetting these people out, and we let this go on. Why? Because that's the way we always have done it. We allowed these things to happen, and now what do you have? It's going to be so hard to get them out and changed, because the truth is they need to flush the entire Senate and Congress out and start over, because we're never going to get anything that's favorable. You're going to have the debt ceiling coming up again, and you know that they're going to pass the new debt ceiling. God forbid that. I mean, again, I think I said this last week. But I hope Trump says no. I hope they don't extend the debt ceiling. I don't think he can do that, but I'm not sure. But in the meantime, it's a joke, all right? But they'll get it, and of course there'll be some stupid bill that'll be tied to it that will only increase debt more, which is going to be obviously the ruination anyways. You have some major problems here. Look at what's going on with the U.S. dollar. Now, the dollar is getting pounded and pounded into oblivion. Trump got elected, the dollar went to 104, and of course it was an easy sale up there. Don't get me wrong, it trades like anything else, but of course the fiat currency system itself is a joke. It's manipulated, and it goes on with a bunch of BS, all right? So again, whatever you see is partially manipulated because again, the U.S. wants a cheaper dollar so that they can get some more exports out. You know, it's phony, all right? It's creating artificial numbers which do not include the free market and true price discovery system. So again, you know, whatever that happens, I give you one real key example right here. Gold has been on a little bit of a rally here, and you know, we saw that it was when it was down at 1200. We said on the Bubba show that, you know, if it holds 1200, it's got a good chance to run back to 1260. If it breaks below 12, it could get pretty ugly. Well, it did hold 1200, which is great. And of course, at the end of the day, though, here's the key. Last time the U.S. dollar was where it was here, which the reason I'm comparing is because the U.S. dollar is the U.S. dollar is the denomination for most commodities. Gold, oil, and all those other commodities are priced in dollars. The last time the dollar was at this level, gold was 10% higher. I don't know, wait a second. What happened? How did we lose 10% on the value of gold when the dollar's back at the same spot? All right, tell me, explain that to me, how that really worked out, okay? The last time the dollar was on here, oil was much higher. How did that happen? Again, I don't care. I thought oil was going lower anyways. But my point is very simple. It's like every time we make these gyrations, every time the central banks steal and run that legalized Ponzi scheme that they're running, every time they do something, they're chipping away at value. And it's like, you know, you lose a little bit on every switchover. It's like when the oil companies, when gas stations raise prices, right? So we go from, you know, let's say $2 to $2.10, which maybe they tack on an extra penny on the way back up, you know, and we don't really know. I mean, we don't know what the value is, but so they tack up and then it comes down and then they take off one less penny. So really what they're doing is they're adding in their profit margin each and every time the markets change, the prices change. Look at Starbucks. You know, coffee is at moderate prices at the wholesale level, but yet when coffee was going higher, oh, we got to raise prices, we can't take it anymore. You know, all these commodities that are dollar denominated are much lower than they were when the dollar was here last time, and everybody raised their prices based on what was going on. Did anybody lower their prices? Maybe I forgot to look. I don't know. They don't lower their prices. So what does that mean? It means bigger profits for the bigger guys. In the meantime, you and me get to pay the tax bill that helps fund all this garbage. So if you really want to see reform, it's got to start with the voters to get rid of these jerks that are in there running it. Because at the end of the day, let me just as I come to a close of this topic, let me just ask you a question. If you were sitting in there right now and you were making, you know, $200,000 a year, and you knew that after 2 terms you'd have a $200,000 a year pension or something of that nature, all right, and you had private health care and you had your own pension system, would you be worried about health care and pension? I don't know. We'll see. So now we've got, you know, another mess, you know, brewing in other places. And Anthony Scaramucci, friend of mine, just got appointed to the chief communications director. And obviously, as anything else that Donald Trump does, there's a lot of BS in the papers and, you know, a lot of stories. Look, Anthony Scaramucci is a tremendous guy. He's, I think, a very extremely fair, reasonable person. And at one time he did call Trump a hack. So, I mean, I think he's not anything else but a guy that he is. He realizes, and I think he's got a love for the country. And I'm sad to see that once again, the liberal media, the left media, can't keep their mouths shut and can't one time let things go by. I mean, to me, this has become more of a freak show. And I'm really getting tired of hearing all of the nonsense. You know, we talk about Russia every day. Maybe we should talk about the United States of America. Maybe we should talk about taking better care of the United States. Maybe we could do things to make this place a better place. Maybe we could actually get some real growth. Do you realize how many empty buildings are around this country that could be used as small manufacturing plants? Do you realize that we could assemble the iPhone in the United States of America for only $50 more than it comes when it gets assembled across the ocean? It comes over here. You'd think that the average American would know the difference of the $50, not to mention that the companies, Sprint, Verizon, T-Mobile, all of them, they'd probably absorb the $50 anyways. Those, again, the money made on the phones themselves is nothing compared to what they make on the service. Okay, you realize that, right? That the reason they give phones away is not because they want to be benevolent; it's they want you to come to their service because that service takes forever. That $900 phone they give you for free, you're going to pay over a lifetime, maybe $50,000 in fees. So what do they care? It's like it's the same model as that ridiculous banking system that we run. They front you, and you just keep paying at the end, right? You never stop paying. Just like you never stop paying at banks. And speaking of the banks, of course, they refuse to really lend money to the average guys. And of course, when you see this happening, okay, it's a simple answer. Well, because why should they? The rates are too low. But in the meantime, don't forget that all these big banks have credit card companies that lend their money at usury rates. That's why you had spectacular earnings for Visa. Why? Because the average guy in the street, the average gal on the street, can't go get to the bank and get money. They have to go to their credit card. And their credit card isn't charging 4% or 5%. Their credit card is charging 10, 11, 12, 15%. They've all got the big gimmick, and this is the one I really love, that you get 0% finance, 0% for a year. Okay, 0% for a year. Great deal, right? What's the catch, right? Well, here's the catch. Most people that have to go to their credit card need to borrow the money, and they have very little chance of paying back that money 12 months from now. Okay? So what will happen is they will accumulate this ridiculous interest rate. And in 12 months, when the bill is totally due, you're supposed to pay like the minimum, with no interest, no finance. But when it's due at the end, what happens? The interest that you didn't get to have to pay because they gave it to you for zero, and they sucked you in to take that courtesy check. Now, the interest goes back to day one at some ridiculous usury rate, and all of a sudden, you're paying this back for the rest of your life. It's a chop shop organization. It's a crappy way to do business, but that's the way that you get sucked in. Why do you think that the banks are so aggressive in all these other things? Why do you think that Wells Fargo, when they went through all their garbage and all their illegal activities, which they didn't know about, okay, yeah, we all believe that too, but why didn't they do that? Because they're attacking the people that can't pay back. Why? Because, again, you borrow $1,000 from them through your credit card, you can't pay it, you pay back $20 a month or $50 a month for the rest of eternity, and of course they're just socking the dough away at unbelievable rates, and of course they don't have the $1,000 to lend you, but it is on paper. This is the big system that we're now working for, and this is the real big problem, that we don't have all this economy working together, and that's where I see more of the problems. Okay, so there's a lot of problems here, but there is one thing we're going to talk about. Of course, my commentary. You can't miss with that. We're going to step out here of break. This is Todd Bubba Horwitz, Bubba's Bottom Line. Make sure you catch the Bubba Show every single day at LibertyTalk.fm, 2 to 3 Eastern Time. That's the Bubba Show at LibertyTalk.fm, 2 to 3 Eastern Time. You can hear me ranting ready for an hour every day. In the meantime, we're going to step out here for a break. Bubba's Bottom Line, real markets, real people. We'll be right back with my opinion piece after the break. Welcome back to Bubba's Bottom Line, and of course, it's me, Todd Bubba Horwitz. All right, so you know my feeling of this whole regulatory industry. You know my views on all this crap. So it's so frustrating. All right, there's been a couple of stories the last couple of weeks, and one was somehow magically Wells Fargo's private wealth client list got out there. Magically. It somehow, they didn't have it protected. Now, again, not that I'm accusing, this is just my opinion, this is my opinion piece, Does anybody believe that that got out by accident? Is there a possibility that it either wasn't stolen or they wanted it out for a reason that would make them more money down the road? Is that possible? I mean, you would think, okay, I heard, Target got hacked and the others got hacked. Okay, I can understand that. You would think that the private wealth clients, and these are clients, these are probably $5 million and up, maybe more, all right? You would think that would be under special lock and key and not everybody had access to it, and probably through, I don't know much about the computer industry, but probably through 92 special secrets to get into it. Somehow it just managed to get on the street. But the real thing that gets me, and this is where it's beyond frustration, okay? Go back a few years ago, and I think of course I'm old, senile, but if you go back and look at, I don't know, I think it's 5 years ago, JP Morgan, the whale trade. The guy lost $5 billion. Now, my contention always was that wasn't the first time he ever made that trade. He made that trade all the time. And JP Morgan probably made $100 billion off of that trade he was making, but this was the first time it was the first loser he either had, or it was the first time somebody recognized it as a loser. So they had to sacrifice the sacrificial lamb. Boom, the guy gets fired, fined, whatever. JP Morgan gets fined. I think they got fined $5 billion, whatever the number was. It was ridiculous. So finally, the case just comes and it's now been dismissed. Now, this is the problem, okay? Either it was always going to be dismissed, either the regulators were, something fishy was going on there. How does it magically, 5 or 6 years later, like nobody's going to see it, get dismissed and thrown out now? The guy made the trade. It's simple, all right? But of course, this is the inequity that we have in the big bank, small bank relationship. And this is where the average guy, once again, gets the old hose up the, we get the enema from everybody on the outside, the regulators and the big banks. Why? Because they can. Because the regulators go to JP Morgan, they say, JP Morgan says, scratch, get out of here. Here's your check, we'll verify and leave us alone. And they have to leave him alone. Whereas a little guy gets, they got a microscope up, giving her a proctoscope, and they're taking care of him, and they're going, okay, you need this, this, and this, and where's the equity here? So now we see this case gets dismissed. $5 million is missing on a bad trade. In the meantime, again, I say that he made $100 billion, so it really was no big deal. But where is the equity here? This is the real problem, and why we can't get to the next step, because we don't have competition. And every day that goes by, we continue to eliminate that competition because people aren't doing their jobs. Bernie Madoff, I'm still saying that somebody knew on the inside. And I'm talking about the inside of regulators. Because there's no way that he could make that scam work for that long without having somebody take a pass at looking. These things don't exist. This is not the real world. And anybody with any common sense would know that those things cannot go on forever. And why does it take a collapse to bring out the problem? It goes back to the entire, the Dodd-Frank Act, all of these stuff that over-regulates industry, which only does makes the government bigger and takes away from small business. That is the biggest problem. Now, obviously, we can't change it overnight, but it goes back to something earlier I said today. We are responsible because we let these guys get in there, and of course, we've got to now somehow get them out. Because if you leave them in here, we're going to continue in the same path of destruction. You can see how they basically blocked off Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the one president that I've seen in my lifetime. The guy works like 24 hours a day. I mean, he never stops. Now, again, you may not agree with everything, and again, you don't have to like him. It's not the issue here. The issue is he's out there trying, okay? And I don't think that he's got a hidden agenda. All right? I think that he's genuinely interested in making things better for everybody. All right? And I think that the true middle class recognize that they may not like him particularly, but they like what he's trying to do. He's trying to run this like a business, because if anybody, the way the country is run, we'd all be in broke or in bankruptcy court or in jail. So I think he's trying, but again, you can see that nothing can get done. Just like we see that the JP Morgan, geez, they're a big bank, they're part of the Fed. The guy gets the pass. I don't understand it, but that'll do it for today. This is Todd Bubba Horwitz, Bubba's Bottom Line. As always, I thank you for being here. We'll be back next week with more right here on Bubba's Bottom Line. Make sure to get the Bubba Show every day at LibertyTalk.fm at 2 to 3 Eastern Time. And for today,
that'll do it. Thanks, everybody. Have a great one. We'll see you later.